So I thought this would be a fun story. I actually was thinking about this the other day as I was watching the anime Japan Sinks 2020. And I thought this would be an interesting idea of kind of talking about, like, not so much kaiju themselves, but more like the psychological effect they leave. So as you can see here, this is a Godzilla story. Not about Godzilla himself, but more like his aftermath. And this is Godzilla Kaiju Survival Group. So Kaiju Survival Group is a help group set up in Japan dealing with kaiju survivors and the mental trauma that leaves behind when a kaiju rolls through the city. So our main focus here is a therapist named Mayu, and she is essentially brought a group of people together to kind of just talk about their problems and talk about, like, the kind of trauma is left behind after a kaiju attack. And Mayu herself is dealing with her own mental trauma from a kaiju, specifically Godzilla. So here, it's more like these little stories, like it's a little anthology story of, like, talking about basically how people deal with the mental trauma of living through like Godzilla or Ghidorah or Rodan or something of that nature. And yeah, there is the science of sound in a way, because there is actual mental trauma left behind from natural disasters. So it would stand to reason that if kaiju were a real thing, they would leave behind their own kind of mental trauma after devastating a city. So yeah, let's dive right into this. So Mayu talks to different people. One person talks about his story of being trapped in a subway car as Godzilla was attacking the city. Well, excuse me, not Godzilla. Baragon was attacking the city, and as we all know, Baragon eats people. So when Baragon's tail knocked the train off of the rails, the train went all over the place, and he broke his leg, and all around him were just twisted bodies and whatnot. But that's not the worst thing that happened. He could actually hear Baragon rip open the train and start eating the people inside. They were people still alive and screaming. Like, he even says, like, I could hear people screaming and letting out their dying screams as Baragon was chewing on them, like, in his mouth. So there's that story. There's another of a person who Godzilla. It was basically like this woman who had a whole family and she was starting a new life. She became a stepmom, and she was getting used to that idea. And then they were taking a beach day. They were having a wonderful day at the beach, and then Godzilla arose from the sea. Like, he just arose from the sea. And I wish that, like, this is one of the things I liked about the 2014 movie, is that someone that massive would probably cause, like, tsunamis just rising out of the water. And that's more or less what happens here. She survives, but her whole new family is just gone in an instant as Godzilla rises from the sea. And that's the thing, like, he rose out of the sea and then went back under. Like, he just rose out, just checked out, and then just left. And it's not so much that she just lost her whole family. It's also the fact that she also points out that we are so insignificant to them. We are nothing but we're nothing but ants under their feet. And she's kind of like, it broke her mentally, because now she's kind of part of, like, a cult that worships kaiju, because you know that there would be cults, like, modern religion got nothing on an actual titan. So, yeah, she's actually like, Godzilla spared me, and I was meant to be like his acolyte, and they're like, and everyone else in the room's like, Jesus fucking Christ, lady. So there's that's one thing. Another story is actually from an old man who saw Godzilla for the 1954 Godzilla, his first attack on Tokyo. That story, the old man was just a kid at the time, and he was about 10 years old when the first Godzilla attacked Tokyo in 1954, and he had already lived. He was just only a year old when the bomb dropped, so he had no knowledge of that. All he knew was like the city was just rebuilding itself, and then came this giant monster just tearing through the city. And he's like, "Now I get it. Now I understand." Just the rage in there. But the one thing I saw was, people rebuild, but it still scares me because he keeps coming back. And Mayu's curious about this, like, why do you think Godzilla keeps coming back personally? And he's like, because he hates us. And he's like, above all else, he doesn't hate Destroya, he doesn't hate Ghidorah, he hates us above all else. To which Mayu says, but Godzilla's protected people. Like, do you think someone who hates people protects them? And he's like, to which the old man responds with, I believe it's more that Godzilla Godzilla protects us out of necessity because we're the ones he wants to punish. No one else is allowed to punish us but us. But no one else is allowed to punish us but him. So, yeah. Anyway, so for Mayu herself, the whole thing about Mayu herself is that her personal trauma comes from losing her parents at a young age. She was there during a fight between Godzilla and Ghidorah, and essentially, it's basically all around them were just. It was a family reunion too. That's the other thing. So her entire family got wiped out. It was a family day at the park. It was a big family reunion. She was all excited. Then Godzilla and Ghidorah started fighting one another, and everything just goes to shit. Like a stray atomic beam from Godzilla just vaporizes people across the park. It just vaporizes them, and all that's left is ash. From a nuclear bomb. All that's left is ash and and when you touch it, they just fall apart. It's just ash statues right there. Then, when people are trying to escape the battle, pieces of debris are falling on people, cutting them in half. Her grandfather gets crushed under some rubble. Just total carnage. And that's the thing, is that she does, Mayu herself doesn't hate Godzilla. Was she traumatized by him? Yeah, but she doesn't hate him. Everyone else, hates Godzilla, or in one person's case, worships Godzilla. But for her, she's fascinated by him. She's fascinated by this being who, she even points out the old man is right. Godzilla probably does hate us above all else, but maybe he's traumatized too. Maybe we traumatized him, because she points out, he was just a regular being who's then exposed to a horrendous amount of nuclear radiation, and he seemed like he's constantly in pain. And maybe taking that anger out on us is his way of dealing with that trauma, because he doesn't know how else to deal with it. So, yeah. So, yeah, it just kind of ends with people, the trauma of people, as well as Godzilla's possible trauma from us. So it just kind of ends with that question. So there you go, guys. That is there is my pretty unique take on Godzilla. But you guys tell me in the comments below, what did you guys think of this story? Comment below. Let me know what would your Godzilla-based trauma stories would be for people. And how do you think that would play out? Just comment below, let me know. As always, if you haven't already, go check out my Patreon. I'll leave a link below. Just put out a new Versus video today, so check that out. But other than that, I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.